The very hotly anticipated Update 3.2 for Battlefield 2042 just released, featuring the return of the class system and the reworked Breakaway map, among other changes and fixes. I'll take some time to talk about Breakaway in another video. With this one, I really wanted to focus mainly on the class system. So the implementation of the class system isn't a full return to what you might think of from games like Battlefield 4. While there are limitations on gadget selection based on class, weapon selection remains open, though each class is incentivized to pick certain categories based on their proficiencies. For the most part, the proficiencies are kind of meaningless. I think Assault's extra ammo and Recon's steady aim advantages are the only really impactful ones, at least from what I've noticed, and even then they're minuscule impacts for the most part. While this might be disappointing to some players, I actually really like that the open weapon selection is here to stay, and that the proficiencies aren't too overpowered. One of the biggest complaints I've had about previous Battlefield games and the traditional class system is that people will choose whatever class has the gun that they want to play the most. Usually that's just whatever the most powerful weapon is in that game. So you often get people who aren't really fulfilling the role they choose, and a lot of roles that are just underplayed. Here though, when someone is choosing a medic, you know that they decided to play as a medic, not just so that they can use their favorite SMG. And I think that's a huge boon for the franchise. While I saw a lot of people online saying classes allowed them to assess enemies easier, I've never quite felt that's the biggest benefit to classes for me. I love that when I'm among a ton of my teammates, I know instantly what they can provide. No longer will I see an Angel with a rocket launcher and no heals, or a Boris with a health bag. If I see a support, I know I can rely on them for health or ammo. If I see an Assault, I know I can rely on them for nimble firepower. On a more specific note regarding the Assault class, I was really afraid that the medpen was going to give Assault players far too much sustain as an individual, removing any need for them to ever be with the team. However, with this update, the Assault player can only use that medpen once, which creates some nice decision-making opportunities and also forces the Assault players to return to their team if they want to prolong their lives. This really allows the Assault players to give groups of medics and engineers the offensive or defensive firepower they need to actually move forward or defend effectively, rather than just having Assault players run around and just selfishly chase kills. One of the downsides though is that custom loadouts are completely gone. I would like to have seen something like a custom loadout per specialist, or just a handful of them per class. I really don't like the extra time I'm spending fiddling around in the menus when I die. It just kind of breaks up the pace of the game in an unnecessary way. I think one of the biggest, more broad things though that I love about the class changes is that right now, at least shortly after the patch is dropped, there's a ton more team play than there was before. Revives are much more plentiful and reliable, vehicles have more support and are also in more peril if they overextend, and even things like spawn beacons and recon drones feel like they're being used more often and more intelligently. This makes the game a lot more fulfilling, and to me, makes it a lot easier to do more strategic or even off the wall and silly tactics. I chose the gameplay you're seeing here not because I did well in it on an individual basis, my KD is actually quite bad, but because the class changes allowed me to do a silly yet extremely fun playstyle that I used to do all the time in Battlefield 5. I would just take the smoke launcher along with the smoke throwables and just create these giant smoke screens so that we could advance on enemy positions. Battlefield 5 also had the smoke reinforcement, which would be cool to see in 2042 at some point, and it made the playstyle a lot more hilarious, but all the ammo boxes I'm seeing lately is making this a lot easier to do. Even with the terrible KD I get in this game, I think it really showcases the freedom the class system has afforded me compared to the gameplay from other videos. And that's the funny thing, the restrictions that have been imposed have actually afforded me more freedom. It's not that I couldn't do this before in 2042, but with everything being completely open, most players just built out their setups to be as individually advantageous as possible. But with the help of my team and my squad, a lot of possibilities have been opened up, and I don't feel as pressured to just spam McKay with a health bag and one of the most meta weapons. I'm happy to say that I think this hybridization of the specialist and class systems is mostly a success, and is, at least so far, something that I feel new and traditional players can enjoy. Time will tell what the balance is going to be like in the long term, but so far, I'm really happy to see so much more variety than just a million McKays with a few Falcons mixed in. I know I harp on this every time I make a 2042 video, but if you haven't played the game in a while or are curious about it, I can't recommend it enough at this point. It's so much more fun right now, and I very often see it on sale for 20 to 30 US dollars. To me, that's such a great price, and it's honestly feeling like a real Battlefield game. So that about does it for me in the class system update, and I want to hear from all of you. Have you tried the new class system yet? What do you think of it? If you're someone who hasn't played the game in a while, are you going to give it another chance? Let me know in the comments. I'd really love to discuss this with you all. And if you're not already, consider subscribing so you can join the discussion about the Breakaway map rework when I release that video. And with that, leave a like or a dislike, and I'll see you all on the next video.